friends. Welcome to the LeggLife podcast. My name is Adam.
My name is Sherry.
Sherry Beth, what episode is this?
Number 71.
Now, we are recording this episode in a pretty unique place.
Yep.
Where are we?
We are at the Anchorage airport.
We're at Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport. And the reason we're recording this podcast in the airport is that this podcast is actually airport themed.
Yes.
So you guys know we love to travel. It's like one of our very favorite things to do. So we spend a lot of times in airports. And this might sound strange. In fact, Sherry, I think this even sounds strange to you. Airports are one of my very favorite places.
Because of the people watching.
Because of the people watching and because of the stories. In fact, I've always wanted to create a kind of like a coffee table photo album of airport reunions.
Right.
Because I just love the range of emotions that you see at an airport.
Yeah, the happy, the sad, the everything in between.
That's what I love about
the
it.
The utter meltdowns.
Yes. There are so many tears, both because of the very best reasons and the very worst reasons.
Right.
I just feel like airports are such a unique, melting pot or crossing ground.
Yeah.
For so many different stories. And so we're going to talk a little bit about some of our airport experiences, if we've had any airport nightmares.
Oh.
Because I think most people, when they think of airports, they dread them. They just think of the worst situation.
Yeah.
Right? They think of the Home Alone family sprinting through the airport at the last minute.
Right.
Only to realize they forgot Kevin.
They forgot an entire child.
Kevin! Sherry Beth, what do you think about airports? How do you feel about them?
I agree. The people watching is always a lot of fun. I think that we haven't really had any truly horrible experiences. We've never lost our luggage.
Knock on, if there's no wood around us, but knock on wood.
Right. We have had delays after delays after delays, and we've missed flights because of that and that kind of stuff, which is not super great. But I don't know. I don't think that we've had any truly terrible experiences, but it is a lot of fun to watch people and try to figure out their story.
So Anchorage is a unique place because here in the Anchorage airport, there's a few convergences of types of people. Obviously this time of year in the summer, there's a ton of people who are up here on their dream vacation.
Right.
So just to our left, there is a flight that's boarding right now. And there are a few people that look like Alaskans, a lot that don't.
Right.
You can tell tourists, people vacationing here. But then there's also a lot of flights in-state that it's okay, yep, you're all Alaskans. You're wearing rain boots and flannels. Right.
Or you just got off a fishing boat.
Yes.
Or especially this time of year, they're going or coming from fishing or hunting or it's and they have a very distinct look, sometimes smell.
Well, and it's hilarious because when you fly, definite smell. I don't want to pass that. Definite smell. When you fly out of Alaska in the summer and you're on a flight to Seattle or to wherever, and you go to the baggage claim, it's hilarious because it's just box of fish after box of fish after box of fish. It's just one of the funniest things to watch.
Yeah.
So Sherry, my favorite place to people watch. Do you have a favorite people watching place at the airports?
I don't think so. Just gates.
Gates?
Yeah.
Mine is actually right through TSA.
Oh.
And the reason I love that is that's where you get to see the signs and the balloons and the flowers and
the reunions.
And that's one of my favorite things. I think of how many times we've been either waiting for friends to arrive or we've been walking out of a flight ourselves, and there are just these tear-filled hugs.
Yeah.
And I always want to know what's the story there? Is it especially in Alaska where we have such a big military population, right? Is it a dad coming back from deployment, a mom coming back from deployment? Is it what is it? And so I just love that. But then you have the other side of airports where it's maybe somebody who's going off to a funeral, right? They're going off to bury one of their parents, or they're going off to a relationship ended and they're moving back home.
Right.
You just have the biggest scope of things that exist at airports, and I think that is the coolest thing because I can't think of another place that exists.
Yeah, that's true.
Maybe a hospital where you have deaths and births, but it's different at an airport.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's also just, especially depending on the time of day, I feel like you get to see different people's personalities.
Oh, yeah.
So it's about 6:30 in the morning right now when we're here, and it's very quiet, and people are just sort of like shuffling along, and you can tell like nobody really got a full night's sleep because it's 6:30 in the morning and they're already here. And so it's just, everybody's just like, But I feel like there's a different energy when you have like a late night and not, I don't know, like, a 9 or 10 p.m. kind of flight versus a 1 a.m. flight versus a 6 a.m. flight. Like,
yeah, versus a flight right in the middle of the day where everybody's everybody's good to go.
Right. Yep. Moving on with their day. This is just part of their day.
So when I think of like the stories that we see on flights, one of my favorite flights to take is always the flight either direct to Anchorage to Los Angeles or like Seattle to Orlando, because you get to Disney families on those flights.
Yeah.
And it's so much fun because you can tell in the airport that it's like, it's Disney vacation time because of the matching shirts. The
matching shirts or the ears. Desi and I have 100% worn our ears to the airport on the plane.
Oh, we sat probably 50 feet to our left and got on a plane with Desi to go to, I think, Disneyland. Or maybe on a Disney cruise, and you two were in your ears.
Absolutely.
At like this time of day.
Yeah.
My gosh. All right, Sherry. Question.
Yes.
Best movie set in an airport, and there's only one right answer.
The Terminal?
The Terminal.
Duh.
How good is that movie?
Oh my gosh. It makes me want to watch it every time I think about it. I'm just like, I need to watch this movie again. I love it so much.
If you guys,
Tom Hanks.
If you guys don't know the story of The Terminal, it's about this guy who basically, while he's flying to the United States, and Sherry, correct me if I mess this up, his country has like a civil war and the country like dissolves. And so he gets here and like his passport, visa, all that stuff doesn't work because it's no longer a country.
Right.
And so he's kind of stuck in the airport.
But he can't get a new passport because he doesn't have citizenship anywhere but his country, which is not a country anymore.
It's the greatest.
And so he's stuck in the airport.
And I think that that's one of the things, obviously that's the extreme version of what most people think of. But people do kind of think of that. It's like, oh my gosh, I'm going to go to the airport, my flights are going to be canceled, and I'm going to have to like live off of Starbucks and McDonald's in the airport.
Right.
We've never had, just to kind of as you alluded to earlier, we've never had that kind of an experience.
Nope.
We've definitely had canceled flights. Have you ever slept in an airport?
I sure have.
Yeah, multiple times?
Yeah, well, no. I think really just once. And it was actually when I was moving up to Alaska. We flew, I don't know, it was a whole roundabout. I think we hit every single airport in the entire United States, tried to get here. But we got...
It was one of those things, though, where you were trying to find the cheapest flight from Indiana to Alaska.
Yes, and it just included every single airport, which doesn't make sense to me because doesn't that cost more? I don't know. Anyway, so we flew, I don't remember. It was like Indianapolis to Cincinnati to Houston to Salt Lake to Seattle to Anchorage. And when we flew into Houston, I had 15 minutes from the time we landed to the time, like, the gates were, like, the doors were closing on my next gate. And it was across the airport. So we had to, like, take the train and do the whole thing. And we were running into the gate as they closed the door. And we were like, wait. And they were like, nope. And they closed it. And we were like, okay. And so we missed our flight from Houston to Salt Lake. So we had to get on the next one, which was just a couple hours later. But that set off the chain reaction to missing all of our other flights.
That's the worst.
Yep. So we didn't get into Seattle. And the next flight in Seattle wasn't until the next morning. And so we slept in the gate. And actually, I think it was the end gates, and they were building them still. And
I think they were remodeling them.
And, like, nothing was open. And, like, I mean, it was, 1 o'clock in the morning, so nothing was really open anywhere in the airport. And it was just like, this is the worst. Like, we couldn't get food. We couldn't get anything. It was terrible, but I made it.
All you wanted to do was like be in Alaska, and you couldn't get to Alaska, and you couldn't even get food.
Right. And I had to sleep on chairs.
So I've definitely slept in a number of airports. But I've never had any horrible situations. But one thing I think that helps with that is I'm a pretty easygoing guy.
Yeah.
So it's like, even when I've had flights that have been canceled that have made me delayed and have to like miss flights and overnight, I'm kind of just like, all right, whatever. Like, I'm getting home eventually. Like, I'm not going to live here in the Seattle airport. You know what I mean? Like
hopefully.
It's like I am eventually going to get home. So
right.
It just doesn't, like, that stuff doesn't bother me. I kind of feel like that is part of the, what's the word? Like, that's part of the risk you take when traveling. Like, if you're going to travel, you're going to risk those things happening.
Yeah.
But travel is worth it.
Well, yeah, and I think that, you can decide to let it completely ruin your day and outlook and whatever, or you can just be like, all right, well, this happened, so we'll just move on. Like, you will eventually get to where you're going, and so I just think, like, I think this is a good example. So when we were flying a couple years ago, actually January of 2020, when we were flying into Orlando.
Oh, yeah.
We had a flight from Anchorage to Portland and then Portland to Orlando, and in Portland, there were mechanical issues with our plane, and they were like, it'll be 15 minutes. Sorry, it'll be 20 minutes. Sorry, it'll be an hour. Sorry, it'll be... Like, it was just constant, like, back. And we ended up leaving, I don't remember, it was like 3 hours later than planned, which meant we didn't get to Orlando in time for our meetup. Yep. Our meetup. So we had to reschedule it for the next day. And I just think, like, serendipitously, if that hadn't happened, there were people that were able to come to that rescheduled meetup that weren't able to come to the original, that, like Auburn, that have just, like, changed our life.
Yeah.
That have become part of our life. And I don't know that we would have that same kind of relationship if we didn't have that meetup experience.
Well, I think it goes to that, like, everything happens for a reason, right? And so don't freak out. And I will say, for whatever reason, maybe it's just that travel is such a high stress thing. It does seem like at airports there are some moody mollies. Like, I just feel like I've seen a lot of people bite off the heads of other people in airports.
Right.
And so I always think of that when interacting with, like, airport staff or the people that are, like, checking us in, or gate agents, or even people, like, in the stores, because those people are the recipients of everybody's bad day and everybody's canceled flight and everybody's, like, you know what I mean? Like, late Uber. And it's like, man, if anybody needs, like, a smile and kind words.
And a little bit of grace.
Like, it is airport employees.
Yeah.
Can you imagine dealing with, like, moody people who just had their flight to Des Moines canceled?
All day.
That's the thing.
Also, wouldn't you be excited if your flight to Des Moines was canceled? I mean...
Okay. Des Moines, we love you. We've never been, but clearly we need to come visit you because Sherry does not have a correct perspective of you. I apologize to everybody in Des Moines right now. Wow. I'm looking around right now, and this is one of the things that's interesting about airports, is that just to our left, there's a gate, I think we talked about it earlier, that was boarding the flight. When we first got here, that gate was buzzing. I mean, it was packed, full of people. Like, just like, you almost had to, like, walk around them to get to where we are now. But now the flight boarded and completely empty.
Right.
Like, just totally dead. And that's kind of the ebb and flow of airports, is that there's these hubs of massive groups of people, and then... crazy activity,
and then just nothing.
Just total stillness. Now, Sherry, let's talk about something that is kind of controversial. And I didn't realize this was controversial until I've seen a number of posts about this online.
Okay.
So a flight is boarding. They start boarding, group numbers. Instantly, everybody stands up and goes and crowds around the gate.
Drives me crazy.
Okay. That's what I wanted to talk about.
Wait for your boarding group.
I would say wait for your boarding group, or wait for, like, the group before yours. So because of how often I fly in Alaska Airlines, we are always boarding group A. So we board, like, right after first class. We're one of the first people on the plane. So as soon as they start boarding, like, I'll get up, I'll put my backpack on, I'll start to make my way over there, because I know that we are about to board first.
Right, but if we're not, like, until, like, the last boarding group, don't hog the front exit, like the I don't know, just sit down. Like, I don't know what I'm trying to say, but, like,
I don't either.
It's just, you're gonna be fine. You're gonna get on the plane. You being in everybody's way and pissing everybody off isn't actually helpful.
Like, keep your seat until the boarding group before yours.
Right.
Right? Like,
Yeah.
the flight's leaving at the same time for all of us.
Right.
Like, we're all going to get there at the exact same time. And so I've never understood that, where it's like, you're in boarding group F, but like, as soon as they start boarding, like families with young children, you're like hanging out right by the gate.
Right, so everybody has to walk around you, or like, it's just stay seated.
Don't be that person.
Don't be that person.
Don't be that person.
Because it just stresses everybody else out.
It is interesting because Anchorage Airport, one of the unique things about Anchorage is that we have a ton of red-eye flights.
Yeah.
Like,
so that people's connecting flights line up with the rest of the world.
Yeah, so a lot of flights in Anchorage leave in the very, very middle of the night. Again, because they want to get you to Seattle at 6 a.m.
Right, more often than not, we have a 1 or 2 a.m. flight.
Yep, so you can get those morning flights to connect to the rest of the country. So it's really funny because I hear a lot of times people talk about red-eye flights, about how they're like the bane of their existence. And I'm just like, that is our normal. Like,
right.
I am so confused right now because we're at the airport at like a normal time of the morning.
Right.
Like, what is this weird thing where we're traveling during the day?
Yeah, it really doesn't happen very often, and people are always complaining about it, and we're just like, that's just our normal.
Our normal. Red-eye flights are our normal.
It would be nice if we lived somewhere in the country that, has normal flights, but we don't. So.
Well, and it's funny because when I book flights, rarely will I look at the time it leaves.
Right.
You know what I mean? I'll just be like, does it get us where we need to go? Or does it get us like where we're trying to go at the time we need to be there? Who cares what time it leaves at?
Right.
And so, yeah, we've kind of become red-eye flight pros.
Yeah.
Does it bother you, the weird travel times?
No, not really. I don't love it. And I don't do super great if I don't get any sleep, and I don't sleep on planes. And so, or very rarely do I sleep on planes or get good enough sleep to feel like I've actually slept. So that makes it hard, and I don't function well on little to no sleep. And so that makes it difficult for me, but I also, I don't know, it just sort of is. Like, it's not really another option.
Yeah.
But like we don't have noon flights anywhere.
And some of the like during the day flights, like, costs are so high, it's like, nah, I'll leave it 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So we pay the price, we don't pay the price.
We don't pay the price, right?
Because it's much easier. Sherry, you want to know one of my very favorite things about airports?
Yes, I do.
The Hudson News stores.
Yeah.
Like, all of the little airport gift shops, and there's like 30 of them in an airport, and all of them have the exact same stuff.
Right.
But I will go in every one of them.
Yep.
And just like look around and be like, oh yeah, I've seen this thing 10 times already.
Yep.
But for some reason, I just love them, and I love the variety. It's like the tiniest little convenience store.
Yep.
Where you can buy like neck pillows and Anchorage hoodies and bottles of water
and cell phone chargers
and Pepto-Bismol and condoms. Now, can we talk about the sale of condoms at airports?
Okay.
Because it's confusing to me. My hope is that they're for sale for use at your destination, not for use on the journey.
Correct.
Because I always laugh when I see them for sale in like airport gift shops. I'm like, save it till you get there, please.
Right.
Oh my gosh. So the airport, I will say, I think some flights have left because it's much quieter.
Yes, it is.
Than when we got here. When we got here, it was actually kind of crazy.
Yeah, it was kind of busy when we got here. We were a little bit, we were running just a couple minutes late, and we got to like check in our baggage, and we were like, oh goodness, like there was a huge line to like check in bags, and we were just like, oh no. And so we found a line that didn't. We walked right up, which was great. And we walked right through security. Like, everything was easy. So it looked much more stressful than it actually was.
Yeah, it's actually been a pretty easy travel morning.
Yeah.
Now, Sherry, let's talk about something that we talked about when we first got in the vehicle to come to the airport. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about the appropriate amount of time to arrive before your flight.
Yeah.
some of this depends on the airport you're flying out of.
Yes.
So when we fly out of like a truly horrible airport, like Orlando,
Right.
where there is just like a sea of people, we definitely are like 2 hours plus kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just because I have seen so many horror stories in that airport in particular.
Yep.
But like here in Anchorage, where are you at? Like, where are you at?
I want to get to the airport about an hour before boarding.
Yep.
We have time to get our bags checked. We have time to get through security. We have time to get a coffee and then kind of sit at our gate for a couple of minutes before we get on the plane.
Yep, like fill up our water bottles, use the restroom if you have to.
Yep.
But then get there.
Right, but I'm not a big fan of just, like, it stresses me out more, I think, to just sit and wait. Like, I don't want to get here hours early and just sit, because then I'm just like, ugh, I don't know, it stresses me out.
So, gosh, I would say I would rather be at the airport 3 hours early than be there 5 minutes early where you're super stressed running through the airport and full of anxiety.
100%, yeah.
Because I can, like, again, I will look through every 30 Hudson News locations and kill 3 hours.
Right.
But I think I'm with you. Like, I want to find that sweet spot where you're there with plenty of time, but you're also not, like, waiting for hours and hours.
Right, not so much time that it's just like, oh, man.
Can we talk for 1 second about how adorable kids are when they travel? Because there was just a little girl who walked by, and she had on, they went in the bookstore across the way, and she has a backpack on that's like full of her stuff. And the fact that little kids have stuff.
What are you carrying?
That's what I'm wondering. Like, what is a kid's backpack full of?
I know, we don't have kids, but I always see these kids that are like walking through these backpacks walking through the airport with these backpacks that are as big as they are, and I'm just like, what are you carrying?
See,
your blanket and your stuffed animal? Like, what's in that bag?
To be fair, there have been times we traveled that's been in your bag.
100%.
So, I mean...
Absolutely.
But like
it just cracks me up that it's kids. Like, I don't know.
My backpack right now has like my laptop in it.
My
like
makeup bag.
Your makeup bag, like charging cords, that kind of stuff.
Right.
But it's like, yeah, what does a little kid have? Just like cheese balls and plushies?
Right. Yeah, I don't know.
Honestly, I kind of wish I had that too. Oh my gosh.
Yep.
Sherry Beth, any other airport thoughts? Do you enjoy airports or do you hate them? Like, do you loathe this part of travel?
Indifferent. I don't enjoy the actual travel of travel.
Yeah.
I don't enjoy getting to places. I love being places.
When it comes to travel, well, let me take that back. When it comes to air travel, you prefer the destination, not the journey.
Yes.
When it comes to like road trips and cruises and stuff, you love the journey.
Oh, sure, yeah.
But air travel, you're just like, just get me there.
Yeah.
And I think I mostly agree with you. Like, rarely, unless you're upgraded in first class, unless you have to row to yourself, air travel is rarely comfortable.
Right.
And so it's not like necessarily an enjoyable experience. I still find the novelty in it. Like, I still love every time I get on a plane. I've flown, I don't know, hundreds of times probably, and I still love it.
Yeah.
Like, there's still the novelty of it.
Yeah. It does always just like blow my mind that this massive chunk of metal can like fly.
I have to interrupt you. The little girl with the backpack is out.
So
and
cute.
Can we talk about what she has sticking out of her backpack? Wait, she's about to walk by, and I need Sherry to see this because it's the highlight.
She has a little Woody doll.
She has a little Woody toy.
Oh my gosh.
Sticking out of the top of her backpack, and I just like
she's tiny. She's probably 18 months old, and this backpack is like the size of her, and it just cracks me up.
She's just toddling around, and she's the highlight of the morning, 100%.
And her mom is like, hello.
Oh my gosh.
Hey, stay with me.
The greatest thing. This is what I love. This is what I love about airports. It is finding a random seat, killing the half an hour before your flight, watching the people.
Yeah.
And like the little girl, look at her. She keeps stopping to look back at the Woody toy in her backpack. It's the greatest, you guys. So,
oh my gosh.
All right, friends. I think we're going to wrap up our airport podcast. I want to hear from you guys. Head over to YouTube, type in LeggLife Podcast, find this episode, and I want to know, have you ever had any truly horrific airport experiences? Have you ever been on an overseas flight to Paris and realize you forgot your son Kevin at home. Kevin! If so, let me know. Because that has not been our experience, knock on wood. Hopefully it never will be.
Right.
But I feel like that even if it happens, we're going to go with the flow.
Right. Yeah, I feel like we're pretty easygoing.
I think so too. So friends, we love you guys so much. Thanks for listening. And I think I'm going to go browse a Hudson News before we have to get on our flight.
Do it.
We will see you next week on the next LeggLife podcast.
Bye.
Bye.